I'm going to go ahead and show you. This is the big Adams-Yang showdown. Are you ready?
Adams-Yang showdown, yes. We're ready for it.
Hey, YouTube, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future uploads.
Andrew, and it really impacted me when I saw you do a press conference after there was a shooting blocks from your home. So you were late on responding to the gun violence in the city. Your company discriminated against people of color. You left the city during a very difficult time, even during a time when I did not see my son over 2 months because I was in the street during COVID. You did not vote in municipal elections at all. I just don't know, how the hell do we have you become our mayor with this record like this? How do you govern a diverse city like this? I just can't get it.
Whoa.
Eric, New Yorkers know exactly what I've been up to the past several years. I started an anti-poverty movement.
I don't know what you've been up to.
Millions of New Yorkers in our time of need. And I moved to Georgia to help win the Senate. Can you all imagine what we'd be facing right now if Mitch McConnell were still the Senate Majority Leader instead of New York's own Chuck Schumer?
New York's own.
Lifeline, an opportunity to actually get out of this crisis. I'm proud of that work. I'm proud to have been an official surrogate for the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris campaign to get Trump out. And now, Eric, we need to turn the page on the people who've been running our city into the ground for the last number of years. And you talk about public safety and securing these shootings. Again, 3 out of 4 shootings in Brooklyn are going unsolved right now. You're the Brooklyn borough president.
Ouch.
The problems have begun
Shots fired.
So
to speak.
Running for mayor and raising money from your friends in real estate. So if you get a choice between Eric Adams for mayor or Andrew Yang for mayor, I think New Yorkers are going to choose Andrew Yang because they know we need a fresh start. We need to turn the page on what has not been working.
No, well, the problem was getting worse because you weren't on the ground. You started discovering NYCHA when you were running for mayor. You just started discovering violence when you were running for mayor. You started discovering the homeless crisis when you're running for mayor. You can't run from the...
Man, he's had a hard time lately.
Wait. That was the best line. Wait a minute.
What was it? Sorry, I missed, yeah.
Wait a minute.
Mayor, you started discovering the homeless crisis when you're running for mayor. You can't run from the city, Andrew. If you want to run the city, I was...
Ooh. That's good. That is good.
You know you were not. And so let's be honest about that. So why should we trust you now? You may flee again during a difficult time. I never left the city. I protected the city. I wore a bulletproof vest for 22 years and protected the children and families of this city. You cannot say anywhere near that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Yang, quick 15-second response.
Sure. Eric, we all know that you've been investigated for everywhere you've gone. City, state, even Barack Obama's Department of Justice investigated you. You've achieved the rare trifecta of corruption investigations. Is that really what we want in the next mayor? You think you're going to enter City Hall and it's going to be different? We all know it's going to be exactly the same. That's why so many people on the stage don't want you to be mayor.
So many people on the stage, I guess they want you to be mayor. What am I missing here? Andrew,
I think you're both right. You both can
do Andrew, there was no investigation that came up and said Eric did anything wrong. And you should never get in a point as a person of color that's wrongly accused often in this country, you should never get in a point that to determine that because someone reviews something that they did something wrong.
Eric,
you should apologize. You should apologize for making that comment.
Saying that this is simply because you're black.
I kind of feel like NYPD, you kind of have given that up. You kind of have to forfeit that point.
Yeah. I hate using the term race card, but I got to use it in that case. That was pretty egregious.
That was pretty egregious.
Yeah.
Other candidates apologize for making that comment. The subject of the investigation.
I mean,
You framed yourself as an underdog.
The cop, right? The cop. So who will speak for the wrongly accused people of color? This guy, yeah.
You know, broke the CFB's fundraising rules. Like everywhere you've gone, people look and see that you don't pay attention to the rules of the road. You're unprincipled. You know, like you actually advised New Yorkers last summer to go confront their neighbors over illicit fireworks, and a woman followed your advice, Shatavia Walls, and she lost her life. Link Maya says
Andrew,
bring a gun
that's
to a
inaccurate.
place of worship, and we all know that's the wrong argument.
Listen,
Mr. Yang, hold on.
Andrew,
Whoa.
15 seconds.
Right.
If you were here, you would know exactly what happened, and that's inaccurate. And so throwing out things that are inaccurate is not making them right in the process.
But
What I pointed out to
thank
you
These
was
person's
accurate.
taxes have nothing to do with how we're going to run this city and make it better.
I don't know if it's like low expectations, but Yang didn't do so bad there to me.
No, he got a bunch of unfair punches. Like he throughout both these debates, I have felt that because people have hit Yang below the belt, and there's plenty above the belt to hit him on, but because people hit him below the belt, you end up weirdly having sympathy for him and rooting for him in exchanges like that.
Yeah, and I also think because people expect him to get beat up more, and when he can, like, just muster up any defense, it seems like he's a good. Someone in the chat said he's a good counter puncher. I mean, he seems like one, honestly.
I also think that he doesn't like. I look. I'm not a Yang fan. I think his UBEI thing is totally like, Milton Friedmanian or whatever. Not a big fan of his Gaza stuff, obviously. But there's something that is so old school New York, like Tammany Hall corrupt about the other guys on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
That in contrast, Yang just seems like a breath of fresh air. Totally aesthetic. I'm just talking about aesthetics, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I found myself being like weirdly like pro Yang in a weird, just viscerally, not intellectually.
Right.
I think Wiley's husband runs a hedge fund. I have to
Really?
look it up. Yeah, like she kind of talks nominally left, but I mean,
They
Wiley
suck so much. Honestly, I feel like the decision is like, what message do we want to send? It's symbolic. I mean, we don't have anyone good in here, so it's kind of like, what's the
but
message
guys,
you want to send? Yeah,
because I don't want us to like. I don't want us to be overly reductive. Like, it's one thing to say, none of these people are my favorite, but it's another thing to say that there's not a significant difference between someone like Adams and someone like Wiley, or even someone like Donovan and someone like Adams. Really, Adams for me. Adams is the bottom of the barrel.
Well, I mean, part of it, Bree, is it's very hard to conceive of how these people will actually govern as mayor. We can hear them talk the talk, but for half of these candidates, they've never held elective office before, and they clearly have a certain theory of power that does not involve taking on powerful interests in this city. I mean, de Blasio is, de Blasio's not like a fucking perfect guy or anything, but, I'm with you that I'll defend parts of his governing style, because he really did, try to go to war, often unsuccessfully, against powerful interests, against, for instance, the police union. And I think that his mayoralty has represented something of an interregnum from the standard governance of New York City, which is basically, okay, property prices are going to go up. We'll give the developers what they want. We're not going to raise taxes. We're just going to grow, and we're going to get the rich people in here. We're going to get gentrifiers in here. Prices are going to go up because the rich people will pay more in taxes, and that's how we can fund all the shit. It's like it's just purely predicated on unsustainable infinite growth, and we're living through the consequences of that. And I mean, de Blasio in his tenure, I don't think he hasn't been able to undo that. The governing class insider consensus. Rents have been going up under his mayoralty, but I do think there's an opportunity to elect someone who would at least continue to pursue this fight, continue to exploit the struggle, and as the housing activism increases, which it has very much so over the past year, especially during the pandemic. Perhaps we can actually chart a new course forward for the city. We can actually chart a course forward that's not just development and catering to the rich. And it's really a question in my mind of who in that stage do I think would be capable of coming into office and not just immediately just prostrating themselves before powerful interests and saying, no, that's all bullshit. I said I'm on your side. That's really the question.
That is
Who
the
do
question.
you think it is, though?
You want an answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have, it's not a
my
gotcha.
top,
Yeah.
You want my top 5? My high
Please.
fidelity.
Oops.
Okay. I honestly, I think, I would say Wiley probably out of all those people on the stage. And I don't know a ton about Wiley. I know she's mostly, I've only really heard her talk about
unfair last name.
Criminal justice stuff. Her name's memorable. I thought Garcia before, which I don't know. Maybe she'd come in with plans, and that's like very alienating from the ruling class.
Watching the debate, I will say I think that people are kind of like inventing a progressiveness for Garcia that just truly doesn't exist. I don't see her being any different than
did I say Garcia again? I meant
McGuire. Okay.
I'm sorry, I meant Morales. I keep screwing them up, but one of them's Latino and the one's not.
Morales is
Okay. Is not.
But she married into the last name, right?
Yeah. She likes to say, "I have 2 Latino children." I'm as a mother of half Latino children.
She should have said Latinx, so she's out anyway. She already lost.
I know there's a certain amount of like bullshitting and pandering involved in running for mayor, but it seems worse than it's ever been. I don't remember the. I think it was 2013. Yeah, it was 2013 primary. The one where de Blasio won his first term. I don't remember that one being quite so full of shit as this one, honestly.
No, this one's feels like a circus.
Yeah, because there are more of them, right?
Yeah, there are more of them this time, and I'm honestly surprised there aren't even more, because like someone like Morales, like she shows up out of nowhere, honestly, and she has not been doing like terribly for someone who's a first-time candidate, doesn't really have like a built base of support. But that being said, it's like it's kind of easy to run for mayor, and it's also kind of why not just take a shot? There's this ranked choice system. It's new, weird things can happen. That's what Andrew Yang's calculation was, and he's still very much so in the running.
There's no incumbent, so it's a good time to might as well try. One thing I like about Yang, I like that he actually used like, hey, I'll go anywhere in like carpet bag or AstroTurf for the cause. I like that he used that as like a strength of why you should vote for him. That was pretty nice.
Yeah, lateral mobility.
We've got Lights Camera Edwin saying New Yorkers must demand ranked choice voting in general elections. 2 closed primaries only benefit the Democrat Party. This is the illusion of choice. I heard you say, oh wait, sorry, one more. The trifecta of, where did that one go?
The thing is, Wiley is status quo, but fine. But who is not the status quo? Like that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking. I do think it's a question of like the least, the lesser of all evils, and then also what kind of messaging, to the extent that we have any. I do kind of think this is an important moment if we can articulate it. So maybe it's important to say, like, Yang, you can't just pretend you're progressive, raise a shit ton of money, come in, talk UBI.
I want to be clear. Yang's not. I would not even say he's pretending to be progressive.
No.
I think he's being very forthright about what he actually believes, and what he believes is New York needs to be. It's like the same shit that Bloomberg believes. It's New York needs to be a haven for the super wealthy.
Recovery if we don't make the subway safe.
But
when people don't feel safe coming into New York City, there aren't customers on the streets. So we have to address public safety. We have to get street homelessness down so that when people go to neighborhoods, they feel welcomed.
How many of you would like to have Governor Cuomo's endorsement of you for mayor of New York City? Mr. Yang, okay.
Defunding the police is not the right approach for New York City. We need to go on a massive recruitment drive. When you go to a community, they know who's trouble. I'm proud to have been an official surrogate for the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris campaign to get Trump out. This is yet another reason we should be thrilled to have Joe Biden as president and Chuck Schumer as Senate Majority Leader.
As your consultants have told you time and time again, they admit you're an empty vessel. And I actually don't think you're an empty vessel. I think you're a Republican. In fact, what you're focusing on, things like casinos in Governor's Island, you're focusing on TikTok houses in the midst of a housing crisis.
Yeah. So to Virgil's point, not pretending to be a Republican, not pretending to be a progressive.
A progressive, right. But he does have a dangerous, I think, illusion of like I mean, he's like a corporate creative kind of, he's like a disruptor, which I think that sometimes people confuse with progressivism. So I do think that that's what he has, that like, Bloomberg is just hey, I used to be a Democrat, now I'm a Republican, and is very just a totally odious, unappealing person, which Yang isn't. I mean, Yang, I don't like politics, but he's somewhat appealing.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the UBI proposal that he's so closely identified with is something that sounds like, oh, that's Robin Hood stuff. That's left, right?
That's actually like it really is like old school. When you don't have it tied to stuff like healthcare, it's just basically a boon for landlords, and it's like Otto von Bismarck. It's just a way to prevent revolution.
And it's also, someone pointed out in the chat earlier that $200 a month, which I think is the proposal. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Do you want to watch that exchange again or no?
No, I don't. That $200 a month is
$200 a month. Is that
that's his UBI pitch is $200 a month, which is like that's not enough to get a Metro card, to get a monthly Metro card in the city. It's like, all right, well, if you're already spending that, why not spend the money on free transportation, free housing, free meals, like actual necessities.
Something else that a lot of people don't know, and I also don't.
He's not even going big.
I also don't fully know why, but Silicon Valley loves UBI, and I think that's where he's coming at UBI from, not from any type of left perspective. But there's like multiple articles about it. But Silicon Valley is really, really into UBI. There's a Medium piece called "Universal Basic Income is Silicon Valley's Latest Scam." Vox has a article, Universal Basic Income is endorsed by tech and California Democratic Party. And The Guardian has like why Silicon Valley is embracing universal basic income. And I know Yang is like a startup guy. He even talks in this debate like all this disruptor talk and, getting the homeless off the street and all this stuff. I think he comes from a very, very Silicon Valley type of mindset.
Well,
isn't that Giuliani talk? Isn't that just Giuliani talk? Like, we're gonna make the city nice for tourists again. You're not gonna see homeless people anymore.
Yeah, but
people are gonna go to shops and spend money.
He was a big pro business guy. I mean, he pretty much sold Times Square to Disney in one fell swoop.
I mean, he doesn't, though, unlike Giuliani, who kind of overtly wore police brutality on his sleeve, right? Or in his words, he was tough on crime on his sleeves. With, Yang doesn't, but of course, a lot of his policies would result in gentrification, result in, terrible, making the lives of homeless people terrible or more terrible than they already are. But I do think, when I was saying that Milton Friedman, I wasn't just joking. Like, there have been extremely libertarian right wingers and like very craven right wingers, like Milton Friedman, who were for UBI, right? So like it is not an inherently left progressive idea. You had Martin Luther King for UBI, but obviously for all sorts of programs and universal programs at the same time. When you have UBI on its own, which is what Yang wants, it really is just like guillotine prevention. It's a guillotine prevention program, right? It's like, they see the signs coming. People can't live in like abject poverty, and they can't so it's like Keynesianism, but not even as good as Keynesianism. It's kind of, I think, more venal and craven than Keynesianism. But again, you don't have to wear the label of like pro-cop. I mean, he is pro-cop, Yang, but he doesn't have the overt right-wing kind of veneer that Bloomberg had, which is dangerous.
Yeah, like some people in the chat were thinking I'm against UBI. I'm not saying UBI is bad. I'm just saying hearing UBI doesn't automatically mean the person's left. Like, there's all types of people, from libertarians to Silicon Valley people, like Katie said, who talk about it as well.
Yeah, UBI, that someone wrote UBI is the gateway personal responsibility block granting. I mean, I think that's true. It's like UBI, if you don't link it to other things, and if you don't link it to universal programs, it's just spending. It's just symbolic spending. And it looks like you're taking care of people, but it's not in any substantive way. And then the landlords will just raise the rent. And then what happens, right?
Andrew, you've said you want to be the anti-poverty mayor, but you proposed a so-called universal basic income that certainly isn't universal. It'll reach just a few New Yorkers. Maybe I would describe it as basic, but here's the thing. if we're really going to solve poverty in this city, we need to get at the wealth gap. I have an equity bonds plan that would get every child born into poverty in this city $50,000 by the time they graduate high school. And my plan wouldn't take away money from other programs that these families depend on. So how can you say you want to be the anti-poverty mayor with supplying less than $200 a month and taking money away from other programs? Is this another false promise?
Thank you, Sean. Again, I want people to reflect on the fact that a lot of people thought something like cash relief nationwide was a pipe dream until we got the $1,200 check, the $600 check, the $1,400 check, which my organization, Humanity Forward, directly lobbied for. And we can make New York City the anti-poverty city, starting with $1 billion down payment in cash relief to help the people who are struggling the most stay in stable and secure environments.
Why makes it down
and
payment?
then get
You can
financial services to the 11% of people that don't
Andrew,
have them, high-speed internet to the
far more
29% of
investment.
people that don't have them, grocery stores in the food deserts, bus lanes to the transit deserts. There are a lot of ways that we can combat poverty, Sean, but we have to start by making a commitment. And the $1 billion to me is just a start. It's just a down payment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yang.
But UBI, I mean, this is why I brought up Otto von Bismarck before. Of course, it's not a real stream if I haven't brought him up. But the difference is that, like, Bismarck actually, wanted to create a safety net to keep people comfortable. But the thing about a social safety net in the form, this is the guy who invented Social Security, Otto von Bismarck. And so this is different, though, right? Because it's similarly co-ops the left and prevents revolution with UBI, right? When it's not tied to anything. But the difference is that it isn't a social safety net. So it's really dangerous and really risky because it doesn't provide for anything. And it just, I'm trying to block my friend because he's anonymous. All right. It doesn't provide for any kind of safety net. So it's terrible. It's really terrible. Again, there's nothing wrong with UBI. It just needs to be linked with other things. And Yang is kind of like, very emphatically not linking it to other things. And if you ask him about it, he does not have any answer for that. He doesn't even say, like, yeah, of course we have to fight for Medicare for all. That's not really the focus. So.
Yeah. I mean, in the clip that Virgil doesn't want me to play again, Donovan questions him exactly on that and is like, Yang frames it as a down payment. And Donovan says, well, why is it just a down payment? Like, why isn't it more? And why are you willing to cut social programs to give people $200 a month? And Yang didn't really have a good answer. He just kept saying, it's a down payment. It's a down payment.
Right.
If you liked that clip, be sure to subscribe to hear more at patreon.com/badfaithpodcast.